What is going on? Meteorologist Jonathan Kagas with you, and we are talking about what is likely going to be a crazy week of weather as we get into Christmas week. Of course, the first night of Hanukkah is also this week. That's going to happen on Sunday evening, and we are talking about three things in particular here. Major Arctic blast really going to invade most of the country as we get into the early stages of next week. Of course, it is cold through a lot of the country already, but it's going to get much colder. The secondary part, as a result of having this huge blast of cold, we could see a very significant winter storm. Still some uncertainty as to where this ends up. It could be anywhere from the Great Lakes into the Northeast. We're going to break down some scenarios and talk about why I think likely the I-95 corridor and the big cities along the I-95 corridor are going to miss out on this one. It's still going to be cold, though, for our friends along the I-95 corridor. And then this big blast of Arctic air makes its way all the way down into Florida. I mean, we are talking about sub-freezing temperatures mainly as far south as Orlando, even further south than that. Miami could even be down into the 30s as well on Christmas Eve morning. So there is a lot to get to. First off, we are going to start with the Arctic cold, and then we're going to go into the big-time breakdown of this potential winter storm, really likely winter storm, but some of the scenarios here and how the overall pattern is going to shape out. So we're going to fast forward now to Wednesday, and this is really the start of the huge blast of cold air. And we see it here as they bust out the trusty arrow. Look at this, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's 30 degrees below zero. This is without the wind now. These are the actual air temperatures. And we're going to notice here the core of the cold is really going to be from eastern Montana and then east of the Rockies. We're actually going to be on the warmer side to the west of the Rockies as we head into Christmas. All right, so here we go. In the afternoon, there we go. It's still 11 degrees below zero. That is your afternoon high in Fargo. We're going to be below zero for highs throughout a lot of the upper Midwest and northern plains. There's Thursday. You see this big, dark purple area. This is where the cold front is coming, and it's going to surge through the nation's heartland. As we move into Thursday morning and Thursday afternoon, you see that purple really encompassing now a lot of the upper Midwest, parts of the deep south and southern plains. Watch what happens, though, as we get into Friday. It makes its way down into the North Gulf Coast. We're talking 8 degrees by 7 o'clock in Chicago on Friday morning. There is where the core of the cold is, towards the Twin Cities and Fargo. And then as we move into Christmas Eve morning on Saturday, look at the expansive nature of this blast of Arctic cold. We're talking the potential, anyway, for freezing temperatures, if not even a couple of notches colder as we get into Christmas Eve morning. All right, that's the cold. That is the guarantee out of the deal. Where there's some uncertainty is with this potential for a winter storm, and that really is likely. So in terms of the confidence of this upcoming winter storm, I'm confident that we are going to have a storm develop. The pattern is right for a winter storm. Where the confidence kind of goes down a little bit is going to be the location. It's likely going to be anywhere from the Northeast into the Great Lakes. The one thing that I do have more confidence in saying, though, and I'll show you why in just a second, is I think the big cities, again, just like the current winter storm that we are dealing with, is going to miss the big cities of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, D.C., Again, I'll show you why in just a second. The other thing in question is, and that is by and large because of where this is going, is the precip type. Now, I'm confident that whoever gets the big ticket area of the system, it's all going to be snow. It's going to be plenty cold enough. But on the warmer side of the system is going to be rain and a wintry mix. So again, the location is going to determine what a certain area is going to get. So we're going to be watching that closely. All right, there is going to be a ton of meteorology broken down here, but this is going to go into explaining why I think the big cities are going to miss out on this winter storm. We are going to start with the upper level pattern here, and this is what we call vorticity. This is going to be also the height levels here at 500 millibars, up about 15 to 20,000 feet above your head. I'm going to bust out the telestration. I'm going to point out one thing that's sticking out like a sore thumb on why some of these crazy model runs that you may see posted all over social media showing huge snow in New York, in Boston, are a little outlandish. Here's the one thing that's screaming that to me. So this is fast forwarding to Wednesday. You see this big kink here, this ridge right out here, out over the Pacific Ocean for huge snowstorms. So those crushing, awesome nor'easters that we are used to along the I-95 corridor. You want that ridge to be right out here. We call that the Boise Ridge for a reason, because it sends the storms down here and then they blow up out over the warmer waters of the Atlantic Ocean. So watch what happens here as we move further in time. A couple of things happen, and this is the European solution. I'm going to also show you the GFS solution, and we're going to keep things really tied to the upper levels because that is the most important part here to determine where this storm goes. So pay no attention at this time when you see those, again, crazy numbers plastered over social media. Somebody is going to get a jackpot storm in terms of the snow. It's just a location at this point, but I do favor inland areas rather than the coast at this point. All right, so here we go. Here is where the center of low pressure could be in the upper levels. That's going to be our upper level low, right about there. Now, this is not good news if you're rooting for a white Christmas in places like New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, because what's going to happen here in this scenario with an area of low pressure that's kind of parked over the Great Lakes, we are going to have a ton of warmer air surging up into the I-95 corridor. All of the cold is going to be positioned back in here. So if the Euro is correct and dissecting the upper level pattern correctly, we're going to be talking about the big snow happening maybe in far western Pennsylvania and really into the Great Lakes region. Maybe Chicago, Indiana, Ohio, as the low and all of the cold are going to be positioned back here. Now on to the GFS, and I think the GFS has been an outlier here, showing the snows kind of crushing the I-95 corridor. It has come into more agreement with the European and with the Canadian model, for that matter, of having things more on the interior side. So keep that in mind. Now, same kind of deal here. We have this big ridge over the Pacific Ocean. Again, that is not good if you want snow along the I-95 corridor. It's 2 thumbs up, though, if you want snow in interior New England and the Great Lakes region specifically. And I'll show you why. Again, I'll put this into motion as we go further in time to the storm. There's also a couple of things going on here. You saw that big area of low pressure. You saw kind of a closed low there. I drew that big L for you over the Great Lakes. This is also more of an open wave. I always like to say when you get these big storms in the Northeast, it's like Ghostbusters when they cross the streams. When you get the big storms, you want to have the polar jet stream interact with the subtropical jet stream that keeps the warm air south and the colder air to the north. We don't really have that here. We have this dip in the jet stream here, but we don't have that explosion. There's still going to be some big snow on the cold side of this, but this storm is not as intense on the GFS solution here as it kind of rolls off. So a couple of things to watch, but I'm favoring more of an interior snowstorm. So if you're traveling, be on the lookout for that really the 22nd and 23rd of December are going to be your big days for a sloppy, extremely significant storm for travel. Now, we're going to focus our attention on the Deep South, specifically Florida. This is Christmas Eve morning. Whoa, it is going to be cold. We are talking about actual air temperatures, likely widespread 20s northwest of Orlando. And I showed you earlier with the future temperatures, we could see widespread temperatures below freezing, maybe as far south as Kissimmee. There are still some details on how things are oriented because of the upper level pattern, but the guarantee out of the bunch is that we are going to be really, really cold. I have 40s in Miami. I would not be surprised, though, if we have 30s getting into the upper 30s in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, maybe Fort Myers. This is going to be a significant blast of cold air. This is that kind of iguanas falling from trees weather, if you're familiar with that. That happens a lot. They're cold-blooded. When it gets this cold, they kind of fall out of trees and seize up a little bit. They're okay. Once it warms up enough, they'll perk back up, but it's going to be cold. So cold, in fact, I ran the backwards trajectory model. And what this is, we fast forward in time here. We fast forward the start time here on Christmas Eve morning. And then the model runs back to find where exactly this air mass is coming from. So all of these dots you see on your screen are going to be the parcel, the air parcel here. So if we go back, the air goes through extreme northwest Canada into Alaska, and then you see this little loop-de-loop. Yeah, so that is the air mass, our air mass that is going to invade the northern tier of the country starting on Tuesday into Wednesday, is charging up right now in Siberia. It's going to modify significantly on its journey across the United States. So again, we're not talking about 20 or 30 degrees below zero in the deep south or in Florida, but it just goes to show how significant this outbreak of Arctic air is going to be as we move into Hanukkah week, as we move into Christmas week, and for Christmas travel again, that big storm that we are watching really on December 22nd and December 23rd. So if you are planning on traveling, make sure that you are paying close attention because there could be some significant travel disruptions as we get into the set 2 or 3 days before Christmas. And unfortunately, we don't know with the airlines, that could have ramifications, again, extending beyond when the storm finally finishes up. And then, of course, the cold settles in. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this content, if you found this informative, please hit the thumbs up button. That helps YouTube push this out to more people so that people can see that the cold is coming if they haven't been paying attention, because it's a busy time of the year. Crazy shopping going on right now. And if you want to stay up to date with the weather, hit that subscribe button. We would love to have you along for the ride. Post in the comments where you're watching from. If you're rooting for a white Christmas, I would love to know that. Put that in the comments below, and we can continue that weather conversation on the crazy cold coming our way, except for the western U.S., as I showed you. And again, that big snowstorm that's going to be developing in the Great Lakes and maybe interior New England as we get into the 22nd and 23rd of December. Enjoy it, guys. Stay warm. We'll keep you posted. Have a great afternoon.